a little bit different.
I don't know what that just said. You getting the cooler weather yet?
It rained over the weekend, so it was a little cooler. And it looks like we are live. Well, we'll wait for the room to populate a little bit.
Yeah, I just got the notification.
Hey, Stewie. Hey, Jackie. Welcome, welcome, everyone.
Hello, I can't see side chat, but hello.
Now, is it just on my side? Hey, Four, how are you? Is it just
No,
on?
I am working off my phone because I don't know I broke my laptop and I don't know what I want to get. iPad Air, iPad
Well,
Mini, I don't know what I want yet.
before, I mean, if you want to, what I have done before is I've just gone to YouTube and muted, like the stream, so it's not interfering with your,
If I get out of StreamYards, it's gonna, let me see. Can you hear me?
yeah, I hear you.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
And that way you can see your side chat then.
Alright.
How's
Okay.
everybody doing? You having a good week?
Did not know that.
Hey, Ford, did you have a good time in Las Vegas? Hey, Cajun Kevin. Uh-oh, who's Cajun Kevin's stalker? Hey, Cherry Meek, welcome.
He tries to say me, but everywhere I go, he follows me.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. Glad you enjoyed it. So I will go ahead and ask the question while we're waiting for the room to populate a little bit. Hey, Coach. Hey, Sandy. That hipster was saying that the rumors going around that RV Davy died today. Hey,
I heard the same thing.
And they said that, hey, just lurking, they said that he died today during dialysis. And I guess what he was in the hospital for was he had not been taking his insulin. Oh, he is
really?
alive, just lurking? He is alive, and then you said no. Hey, Bianca.
Excuse me.
So he is alive or he's not alive? That's a horrible rumor to go around if somebody, that's just not a good rumor to go around.
Nope.
They said,
I heard it from Sean in D-Dub's chat.
yeah, he was live last night. Coat. Oh, hi, Hot Frog. Welcome. Thanks to Tucker for sending you over. Well, regardless of his past and all that kind of stuff, I mean, you never want to hear somebody dying like that. But, it's kind of like Hipster said, is that just another story? Like, the story that was told about
Von Houten.
Oh, I didn't hear about Von Helton, but like how they said a few weeks ago that Elvis got beat up and he didn't. Hey, Joners, how are you? Ian. I kind of doubted the Elvis thing from the start because number one, Rosie would have been with him, and he would have hid behind her for protection for sure. So, oh, that's nice, Billy. I'm so glad he sent y'all over. Thank you. Hi, Lily.
I like Lily. She's sweet.
Winky's good. She gets everybody spoken to. Hey,
yeah.
Thanks for sending
in one shot.
Just lurking says, well, I wish him death. Well, I don't think I'd probably want to be where he ended up if he did die, with that on his back. That's for sure. But
I didn't know he did dialysis.
well, I don't know that he did, except he hadn't been taking his insulin. So, thank you, Tucker. Thank you very much. It might have been a situation where since he didn't take his insulin, that it caused him to have to do dialysis.
Yeah.
Could have been
Let me tell you, I am a type 1 diabetic. If you do not take your insulin, I don't know how people do it, because if you do not take it, it hurts your bones.
Oh,
It
wow.
makes your bones feel like glass. You
Uh,
feel like you cannot get enough to drink, and all you want to do is sleep and vomit. So
mm.
I don't know how people just don't take it. You know what I mean?
Well, I know they said a couple of weeks ago, and this isn't talking about her. I mean, she talked about it herself that Lululemon didn't go to dialysis um, for like several days. She didn't go, and when she finally went, I think you just lurking. When she finally went, they basically told her it's a wonder you didn't die, from it.
I heard your body. I'm not sure because I don't know. I heard your body bloats if you don't do a dialysis.
I think she was supposed to go 3 days a week, and she just didn't go.
Is she a diabetic or?
Yeah, I don't know if she's type 1 diabetic, but she is because she goes to dialysis 3 days a week. Cajun wants to put you in your place. Can you believe that?
Yeah, he's always on my coattails.
Hey, Tammy, welcome. Of course, for those that don't know, I am Green Giant Tammy, and I am working, and I'm everybody in here because nobody would ever come listen to Lindy. I'm all these people. Well, regardless, hopefully, hope for the best with RV Davy. Hopefully, he's not passed on to the great beyond, but you know your limits. If you know you're supposed to take insulin, then you should be doing it.
Absolutely.
Just
I
like,
haven't seen Dragon's Law around. Is he okay?
um, he's okay. As a matter of fact, I've got an email to answer to him tonight. I wanted to have enough time to actually respond to him well. I don't think he would mind me saying this, but they had a family friend that passed away, and the woman had cancer, and I think it's just been, really hard on him dealing with it and everything. So he's just been taking time, just for himself. So, yep, Stellar's me too. Welcome, Stellar. So tonight we're going to be discussing the Darlie Routier case, part 2. Tammy says, for the record, Lindy and I are best of friends. I'm not always around, but we still text all day, every day. Yes, and Tammy is not on anything but YouTube. She was on Twitter at one time, but she hasn't been on Twitter in a while, no longer has her Twitter account or scope or anything like that. So, a lot of people want to say, oh, she's such and such, and she's such and such, but no, she's not. She's just Green Giant. And actually, she changed that account name to make fun of Dave because he was always talking about, his farm, his farm, his farm. Hello, Boy at News Network. Welcome. Deep fry both, they asked, with extra hot sauce. Well, just tell us how you really feel, Coat. Tell us how you really feel about that. So just to give like a synopsis of what we're talking about, we left off last week and we had talked about the Darlie Routier case. Have you ever noticed, I have since I've been doing these crime things, so many of these killers' middle name is Lynn. My middle name is Lynn. I mean, come on, am I going to be a killer one day? I have my list.
Let's hope not.
I have my list. I had a bitch list, but anyway, on June the 6th, 1996, her Darlie Routier, her 6-year-old son Devin and 5-year-old son Damon, had someone or her, depending on how you look at this, basically cut them to pieces. and cut her throat. This is pretty wild to me. The police arrived within 3 minutes of the 911 call. They did discover that the window screen in the garage had been cut, which could have indicated a possible entry point for an intruder. Nothing was found to indicate an intruder, so they did then allow the police and paramedics to attend to the victims. Now, when I read that, that was kind of curious to me, because I wonder how long there was in between when they were trying to secure the crime scene and actually letting them go in, which I think the boys were probably too far gone anyway, but I mean, before they let them go in to try to save them, you know.
Yes. I believe it was Damon who was still alive on his way to the hospital, but he actually ended up dying at the hospital.
Yeah. Oh, is it? See, we've got and Terry, we've got a lot of Lynn's in here. Hey, Sam, you come in. I was looking over my notes. Stickers was convicted on all parts, Tucker. They said that Becca looked like she was pretty much shaking in her boots after that. And he's going to be sentenced. It's either the first week or the second week of December that he will be sentenced. But apparently they took videos and everything that, you know, where he'd been showing his ass and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and presented those as evidence as well. And he was convicted on all. December 4th. Fort News Network says December 4th. So I don't know enough to know about, you know, UK law, if he will get time, if he will get probation, or, you know, exactly, you know, how that will work.
Yeah.
I would think that Becca's time would have to be coming to a close there, because she's been there almost 3 months. But I don't know. I don't know how that works exactly. 4, you're kidding. You didn't really shave your head, did you? That's got to be a joke.
Hopefully not. I like his hair.
Yeah, me too. Well, Stickers had been he had been arrested for beating his wife. So that's what the issue was. Becca knew all this going in. She's fine. She's not going to get any sympathy from me. But, you know, he treated his wife horribly, horribly. So just a rotten situation all the way around. He'll probably cheat on Becca while in jail. Probably. Probably. Okay, back to this case. It says, Routier's son sustained fatal injuries. Her wounds described as superficial, but they did come within 2 millimeters of her carotid artery. She was treated at the hospital and released 2 days later. Her youngest son, 7 months old Drake, was asleep upstairs with her husband, Darren, at the time of murders. Then, of course, there was a big hullabaloo because several days after, you know, all of this happened, it was 8 days after the murders, they had a birthday party at the gravesite because it was Devin's 7th birthday. And of course, a lot of people looked at that as being very odd and, you know, thought that that pointed to guilt. And then I guess she was arrested 4 days later. This still amazes me that this happened on June 6, 1996. And this case went to trial and she was already convicted by February 4th, 1997. She's been sentenced to death by lethal injection. So 8 months, almost 8 months to the day of the murders, and the trial was already over and she had already been sentenced. That's pretty crazy that it happened that quickly. Yeah, Winky, the silly string, her sister had actually brought that. Her sister,
minor sister.
Yeah, had actually brought that because I guess they had already, they knew that the parties were coming up. The invitations had already been sent for the birthday party and everything like that. And to me, that doesn't point to guilt or innocence either way because you, you know, nobody knows how they're going to react in a situation like that. I mean, you're just not going to know. Even if you think that Darlie did it, you know, it's her sister and her mom and others that were involved in all of that too. Are you going to say they were all, um, guilty because they did that? I think that they were at that point in time within 8 days. I'm sure that I know for us, I mean, it still feels like to us that Heather is alive and it's been 18 months. You just don't ever really feel like, that they're dead, especially, a murder like that. Um, hey, Truth, I am going to put the link in the side here. And I'm going to try not to get porned because this is my first time doing this here. So I'm going to be very careful in what I do. And we'll see how that works. So far, it's been very easy. I was kind of leery since I had, gotten down that other one. So, no, I wasn't able to do Zoom. This is StreamYard, but you don't have to. You didn't have to download anything to use StreamYard, did you?
I didn't know.
Yeah, it just links you right in. Is how it works.
Yes.
Yeah, the question is if Routier killed her kids exactly.
I don't believe. She loved him too much. She sent out invitations. Yeah, she had the baby blues, but that don't make you a killer.
Present yourself when inviting people up, then you can't get bombed. Oh, okay, good idea. Good idea. Also, I was reading, because there's so much information out there, but I was reading the transcripts, and I guess the DA was trying to say so much about, that they were in debt, but yet he
Yes.
was talking about the money that they had coming in, like, they were pretty flush.
They also picked. They also drew her as a trophy wife, self-centered, gold digger.
Well, if you look at the pictures, Bianca, um, she was bruised horribly. I mean, and she was cut, like they said, within 2 millimeters of her carotid artery. So, I mean, that's pretty. Um,
And Bianca, the cut she has on the defensive wounds she had on her arm is actually all the way to the bone. They had to go in and repair it with surgery.
can you tell the truth what it took you to when it sent you? She said it always takes me to LinkedIn.
No, it took me right to the backstage. It took me right to backstage, and you had to let me in before I could do anything.
Right. Because I see where it pops up, like when you come in, I see now what they mean about the backstage. Well, Everton, I don't think that's. Oh, here she is. Okay. Oops.
Can you hear me?
I can hear
Yes.
you. Somebody else hear her?
Okay, cool.
Welcome, Truth. What I was going to say to Everton is, I mean, no, that doesn't prove that she's innocent or guilty, but it would prove, to me, it would go to no premeditation. Because if you were already planning on killing your kids, why would you have already sent out birthday invitations for a birthday party?
Yeah, yeah.
Hey,
I mean,
Trisha. But I welcome all different opinions. As long as we stay respectful, I welcome all different opinions. We're just talking about the case in general. Smurf up here has, and I think Truth too, they have gone through this case forwards and backwards and upside down.
For years. I have.
So Truth, do you want to start telling us some of your opinions then? Hey, Savannah. Uh-oh, did we lose her? Looks like we lost her.
Truth?
She's not in the room anymore. She probably did not premeditate for days and weeks ahead. The thing I can't figure out, though, is if you wanted to kill your kids, seems like there would be a better way to do it than this way where you get hurt too. I mean, she could have planned something where she wasn't at home, or where she didn't get stabbed too.
Poison them, something.
And then also, why spare the youngest child? Okay, she's back now. Let me add her back to the stream. There you go, Tree.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
So when I first come across this case, it was on the nightly news, like Dan Rather or something. And it was Texas mother convicted, sentenced to death for killing her 2 kids. Am I echoing?
Not on my end, you're not.
Okay.
I can't hear it echo.
You do?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay. So immediately it caught my attention, because I was like, wow, I got to check this out. But back then, you didn't have social media like you have today. You couldn't just log on to, YouTube. So I had to read books, and Pat Springer's book, and Barbara Davis, who ended up changing her mind about the case. But nothing ever set well with me. Nothing ever set well with me on this case. And no matter what it would be so much easier to believe the woman did it and just go on about my business than trying to be a supporter, because no matter whether you believe Darlie Routier killed her children or not, you have to know the trial was unfair.
Excuse me a moment, Truth. They say that you are echoing. They're saying to mute your other device.
I don't have another device. I'm on one device.
Okay, she's on one device. Is it any better for y'all? Because I'm not really hearing the echoing, but I've got earbuds in.
Yeah, I've got headphones on.
Yeah, I don't hear an echo either.
Okay.
I don't know what to do. But so regardless if you think Darlie Routier killed her kids or not, if you follow this case at all, you would know that the trial was the biggest farce in the history of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have a judge sitting on a death penalty case who admits in open court that he has Alzheimer's.
Oh, what?
Yeah,
I can prove it. It's in the transcripts. The defense attorney says to him, Your Honor, because they made an objection. It was, whatever. It was something they were going to talk about later. The defense attorney said, will you remember this? So Doug Mulder knew that Judge Toll was suffering from the early stages of Alzheimer's. I have no doubt in my mind he knew this. Because why would he make that comment to this judge? And then Mark Toll, the judge, says, he kind of laughs. He goes, yeah, I may have Alzheimer's, but I'm only up to the Z. Now, ask yourself, if you're on trial for your life, would that be acceptable?
absolutely not. Of course not.
No, it would not. And I can't believe that they would allow a judge to keep working even under that scenario. So are y'all able to hear her, or is it just a little bit of annoyance? I'm just trying to figure that out before we go ahead. Because she's only on one device and she's got her headphones or
Yeah,
earbuds.
I don't know what I can do.
So are y'all able to hear her talk enough to understand what she's saying?
I can hear her fine.
Yeah, I can too.
She has low volume. I have the volume all the way up. Is it better? Is it better now, Stellar Joe?
The insurance policies on the boys were not even enough to bury them, though. Okay, so they're saying you're better now, so go ahead.
Okay, good. Yeah, if you think this is for money, then common sense would have been for Darlie to have died, because there was $200,000 on Darlie, $500,000 on Darren. If Darlie did it for money, why wouldn't she just whack Darren?
Exactly.
Now, I want you all to think about what this woman had to do and in the time in which she had to do it, okay? In the time that it takes to pop a bag of microwave popcorn, this woman had to stab her two children brutally, knock over a lampshade, knock over a glass coffee table, break a glass, run the sink, clean up around the sink area, take a sock, run it 75 yards and back. That's over a professional football field, barefooted in a nightshirt, come back, roll a vacuum cleaner around, and stab herself to the bone in her prominent arm, which means she's right-handed. She used her left hand to do it. Stab herself in her shoulder blade on using her non-prominent hand, and cut her throat from, well, I'm sure you've seen the pictures. Was it considered a superficial wound? Yes, but it was 2 millimeters away, which is the width of a rolling paper from her carotid artery. She had to do this all in. She was on the phone with 911 for five minutes and 30 something seconds. The testimony was that Damon could have only lived up to approximately 9 minutes. So if you take that almost 6 minutes away, that leaves 3 minutes, and he was still alive when Waddell came onto the scene. So in the amount of time it takes you to pop a bag of popcorn, she had to do all of this, or you have to believe she was staging the scene while Darren was upstairs and could have come down at any time and caught her knocking over a lampshade, flipping over a table, running a sock. You know, what if Darren would have come down while she's running the sock down the alley? You know, I mean, common sense has to kick in somewhere, guys.
Well, to answer some of the questions that people are saying on the side chat, for one, it had been said that they were in a financial strait and that the husband Derek had asked some people to stage a robbery at his house. And so that's always been one of the things that's been talked about is could this have happened with the robbery being staged? But then why would they stab them? You know, especially she says she didn't wake up until one of the boys was waking her up.
Right. Here's my theory. My theory is Darren ran his mouth to the wrong people.
Oh, I never thought of that.
And okay, they had already purchased plane tickets to go to Pennsylvania. They were supposed to be going to Pennsylvania within days of this happening. In my opinion, Darren ran his mouth to the wrong people. Remember, his car was not there. It was in the shop. His Jaguar was in the shop. Darlie's Pathfinder was parked out on the road. So it had an empty driveway. And I believe somebody came into that house with the intent on robbery. One of those boys woke up and startled them, and I believe they were young punks who freaked the hell out and got rid of their witnesses. I think they thought they killed Darlie.
How do you think that they got in to the house? Was the door open or?
Well, here's my thing about that. In none of the testimony was the front door tested. Don't you think if Darlie was covered in blood and running in and out of her house, she would have left blood behind on a door?
Oh, yeah.
So who's to say, Darren was asked during trial whether he locked all the doors. Well, there was a sliding glass door right behind where Darlie was asleep on the couch. And everybody says, well, what about the glass? The glass being on top of the blood. Well, if you look at the picture of the glass, it was a wine glass. The only thing that really broke on that wine glass was the stem. So glass didn't go everywhere. It wasn't piles and piles of glass. No, the sock down the alley doesn't have Darlie's blood on it. It has a little bit of Damon's, a little bit of Devon's, and the inside tested positive for skin cells and or saliva. They couldn't say which one belonging to Darlie.
To me,
I think that sock was used as a gag in Darlie's mouth.
This is just devil's advocate, but it would be pretty dang hard to stab yourself, I would think.
I would be too much of a wuss to do it, so probably.
I don't know if my chat's moving as quickly, but I think it would be damn near impossible to stab yourself in the arm to the bone, slice your neck from one side to the other.
Savannah,
yeah.
I don't think that he had a girlfriend. They didn't even get divorced until 2011, and this ended up in 1996.
And it was Darlie's idea to get the divorce.
Right.
Yeah, she changed. He said she changed a lot in prison. She can't trust anymore.
Well, don't you know that if she didn't do this, that she has to question, did he do something that, I don't know about that set me up, or,
I've always wanted to ask her that. I didn't mean to cut you off. I've always wanted to ask her that, but I think she's afraid to admit it, for number one, and two, she wants to know about the outside world so bad. That's all we talk about.
Right. They have allowed her to do a lot of interviews. That's surprising to me, because there's been various ones through the years, that have been done.
Yeah.
Okay. Everton says, Darlie says Damon woke her up by saying, "Mommy, mommy," and she said Damon followed behind her. Now what mother? Okay, if you go back and read Darlie's original statement, she had no idea that Damon had been stabbed. She saw a figure walking away from her. This is in her original statement. She saw a figure walking away from her. She followed behind the figure. The knife was laying on the ground in between the kitchen and the utility room. And everybody's like, well, why would she pick up the knife? Well, if you have a 5-year-old walking behind you and there's a sharp object laying on the ground that doesn't belong there, isn't it your natural instinct to pick it up?
Oh, yeah.
she could have been when she was woken up. She could have been groggy still and seen the knife and just picked it up. I mean, we all do things like that when we're half asleep. Truth, you said I knew it, but I'm adding on to it. You said she had to do all that in the time it takes to make popcorn. It's 2 minutes that the popcorn pops. You can't do all that in 2 minutes.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the medical examiner. Okay, let me answer Everton first. So you say she saw a figure of a man, but did not see her son. That's right. The glow of the television was the light that was shining at that point. She saw a dark figure walking away from her. I'm just telling you what her original statement says, and you can go read it over on Darlie Facts. At that time, she didn't know Damon was wounded. It's when she turned on the light in the kitchen is when she realized that Damon was wounded. Then she looked over for Devin. And then she there's a mirror that hung over behind her wine rack. And that's when she saw that she had blood all over her. This is her original statement. I mean, you can take it or leave it. I just know what she says. But the medical examiner testified that at the most, Damon could have lived approximately 9 minutes. So Darlie was on the phone for 5 minutes and 30-something seconds. So she wasn't stabbing her kids or doing any of this while she's on the telephone with 911. So you have to immediately take that off of the time in which she had to do this.
Hey, Carla.
Unless you honestly believe that she went around staging the scene while her husband was upstairs with a 9-month-old and could have come down and caught her at any given moment.
Now, Truth, can you agree with me on this? It's kind of fishy that he didn't hear none of the commotion downstairs.
Well, if we're going to talk fishy, it's kind of fishy that that she doesn't remember anything. But traumatic amnesia is, very common.
Yes.
In my opinion, Darlie, because she says she was awakened by a pressure on her. And then she says she was awakened by Damon tapping her shoulder saying, "Mommy, mommy." In my opinion, whoever got on top of her rendered her unconscious. And then after coming to is when she comes to the second time is when Damon's tapping on her shoulder. That's my opinion.
I mean, I don't know if this is something you can test for or not, but could there have been like chloroform or something that they thought?
I was just thinking that.
Well, let me tell you what happened with that. The sock was found and was not turned over to the defense for over a month.
Wow. Now, I didn't know that. She woke up and started cleaning?
I didn't hear that.
Okay, if you look at the crime scene photos, the vacuum cleaner has been rolled through blood. Now, according to James Cron, she did that as part of her staging. Now, what that would make sense, I don't know. In my opinion, the vacuum cleaner got pushed out of the way when the paramedics came in.
Oh, very true. Or when they were going in trying to clear the scene.
Yes.
Even.
But when in the trial, not one of the first responders remember seeing that vacuum cleaner laying sprawled across the kitchen floor. Not one of them.
This is something that I read in the transcript. Now, I'm sure they probably verified it, but this is during the trial, and it's the DA questioning Darren. And it says, did you and she discuss, was there some small talk regarding the fact that you all only had $64 in the bank. Could you carry off all these, there were trips because let's see, it says they were planning to go to Pennsylvania. They had purchased their tickets but hadn't yet paid for all of them. Darlie was planning a trip to Cancun with a girlfriend, and her girlfriend's daughter was about to go into the Air Force, so they were talking about taking a quick trip to see her. And then they had also talked about going to his 10-year class reunion. Well, then it comes down here and the DA says, well, did you all discuss that you only had $64 in the bank? How would you have carried out all those trips? And he said, no, sir, I had roughly $7,800 in my business account. So that just means that Friday had not come yet and I had not paid myself. And in my accounts receivable, I had between $18,000 and $20,000. So he says, so you had $8,000 in your business account, another $20,000 in your accounts receivable. So you had close to $30,000 access if you wanted it. You had plenty of money then. And he said, yes.
Well, they submitted their financials. And were they rolling in money? No. Did his business take a big hit that year? Yeah. A lot of people take big hits financially and don't massacre their families.
Right.
But they did have well over $64 in the bank. And that can all be seen online. Their financials were submitted. So there's so many rumors that surround this case. That's just like somebody said, she said something about her carpet, just lurking. She mentioned her carpet. Let me tell you where that rumor got started. One of Darlie's best friends, Mercedes, lived in the neighborhood. And Pat Springer wrote in a book, I believe it was Pat Springer, wrote in a book that Darlie and Mercedes returned to the house after the crime. And that Darlie said, oh my God, look at this mess. It'll cost us a fortune to replace this carpet. Mercedes has admitted publicly that she never said that Darlie never said that to her. I personally contacted Mercedes and said, did she say that? And Mercedes said, not only did she not say it, but Mercedes tried to bring legal action against the author that wrote it. And she was told there was nothing that could be done about it.
Everton, let me tell you my point of view on that. He says, I think the women on this podcast are too good-hearted to even imagine somebody could be so evil. Well, I don't know these other ladies' background, but 10 years ago, a gentleman broke into my house and stabbed me and raped me and left me for dead. So I, of all people, know that evil is alive and well in this world. I also
trust me,
was accused of a crime that I did not commit. So I can see the flip side of something like that as well. Just lurking, she is actually down on my list. I think that will be very, very interesting. Well, thank you, Emerson. I wasn't saying that for that. I'm just saying I definitely can see both sides of things. And if you're ever in a position, there are so many people that say, I don't see how defense attorneys can defend these people. If you're ever in a situation where you've been accused of something that you didn't do, you quickly learn how defense attorneys can do what they do.
And thank God, because I think there's an average of 4% of the people sitting on death row right now. 4% are innocent.
Yes, and one of them is Rodney Reed.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always go back to, let's just go with the hypothetical. If you think she's not guilty, could you imagine not only you lose your two sons, but then you've been in jail? She's been in jail what was it? She was 26 when this happened, and she's been in jail 23 years. So, I mean, she's almost been in jail as long as she was out before.
Well, okay, and I don't know about you guys, but I got my hands on a letter from one of her attorneys that he
I
had
love
written.
her attorney.
Well, this was from Dick Burr,
No,
who's,
that's what I know.
who still works on her case. And he had gone to see Darlie. And in the letter, he says, and I can provide Lindy with the letter, but in the letter, and I got in real trouble for releasing this. I mean, Dick Burr ripped my ass up one side and down the other, but I couldn't stand it anymore. But in the letter, Dick Burr says to Darlie, I'm sorry. Please don't believe that I won't continue to represent you to the best of my ability. There's just never been a time in my career that I've ever had an offer like this made for a death penalty case, which tells me the state was considering offering her a deal. And Darlie flat out said, no deal. Now, some people say that's no proof of a deal, but is a defense attorney going to dangle that carrot in front of your face if they haven't talked to the state about it?
Do you know what the deal was?
I believe it was life.
Okay.
At the time Darlie got, at the time of her sentencing, Texas didn't have life without parole. It was either life or death or years. You know, they can give you 20 years or whatever.
Right.
But they didn't have life without. Life without parole wasn't instilled in Texas law until I think 2005. So the jury was pretty much left with, you know, okay, if you find her guilty and give her life, she'll be out in 20, 30 years. Or you give her death. So I believe they did come back and they did offer her life.
And you have to think about it too, you know, how I've talked about, I'm so shocked that it went to trial so quickly. If you go through something that traumatic, she was probably still in some level of shock by the time the trial came around just 8 months later. I mean, that's not
because
you get over it, you know, really.
When Mulder took the case, and this is in the transcripts, when Mulder took the case, her defense attorney, he was told right off the bat, you will get no extensions. I know what Toby Shook said, Everton. I know exactly what he said, but I can show you the letter that says differently. And by the time the deal was made, Toby Shook was no longer a part of this case. I mean, you got a court trial transcript with 33,000 errors. How is that acceptable? Everybody is entitled to a verbatim transcript. When you had 33,000 errors in a transcript, and then you pay somebody to redo the transcripts, and then Simmons wouldn't even sign off on some of that, how is that acceptable? Why won't they give the woman another trial?
I also believe they haven't put her to death yet because they know she's innocent. That's just my opinion. But
that didn't stop them with Cameron. But
I'm sorry, I was putting my earbud in. What? I'm sorry.
That didn't stop them with Willingham. They killed him, and then and then they go, "Oops, sorry."
Well, I know she the Innocence Project is working on her case.
And the Innocence Project did pick her up.
I'm sorry?
What is
They
their
did
qualifications
interrupt.
for picking up a case?
Yes.
Do you know?
I wrote to the Texas Innocent Project years ago, and I was told that their standard to review a case would require favorable DNA for the defendant. Now, that was the Texas Innocence Project. She's been picked up by New York.
Oh, do you speak with her too?
Who, me?
Yes.
I've never spoken to Darlie. I talked to her mother.
I talked to Darlie.
Let me mute for a second. We'll do process of elimination and see if the echo's any better.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here. She's mute for a moment. I wonder if it's me.
I don't know. I don't know what to do to make it stop.
Let me leave and then come right back. Hold on.
Okay. I don't have the YouTube side up. I didn't realize that Darlie had testified. So she testified at the trial?
Yes, and she did not do good. Her testimony was not good. I don't have the YouTube side up either, guys.
Any better?
So
Is it me?
Is that any better, guys?
Hello?
Hello? Yes.
See,
Yes.
I've got a bad echo too on my end.
Because I'm not hearing the echo.
I left and came back.
Hello? See, I think it's me. I don't know. Sherry, can you tell? I just don't know how you can look at this case and not believe that the woman at least needs another trial. It's the truth echoing. Okay, well, what do I do?
Try to go out and come right back in. Maybe that will help.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to go back and
Let me try to take my earbuds out. Can you hear me?
I can still echoing now. The truth went out now. So now that she's hopped off, is it still echoing? Okay, no echo now. So it's got to be coming from her side then, maybe.
From Truth?
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah,
Sailor. You're right now. Too, that you have to watch for the back room or the backstage or whatever to let the people in now when you're just sending a link that they pop on.
Darlie, look at each of those.
Everton, I'm just curious, and you don't have to answer if you don't want to. Are you from Texas, or is this just a case you've always followed? Okay, Leisha, we'll tell her when she comes back. Hey, Lynn, welcome. She's not backstage again yet.
We can live with the echo. Just keep talking. I don't know. Maybe it was me. I don't know.
You're going to have to stay in or out. You can't be going back and forth.
You leave my buddy alone.
When he comes meowing at the door, that means that Thomas has fallen asleep and he's wanting to get attention from somebody else now. Gotcha, Everton. I have been too for a long time. I always say it sounds kind of bad, but I just get intrigued by these things.
My mother is big into true crime, and I guess she got me and my sisters into it.
My mother wasn't, but I have to say the reason I think she wasn't is mother worked for the state court judges in our county back home for 35 years, so she was in a courtroom every day. So
and she didn't want to see it at home.
She didn't want to see it at home then. And she
That's
saw
pretty cool.
some very big doozies she saw.
Oh, I bet. Was she a did she do the transcripts?
No, she was clerk of court.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why you think you're going to stand on my laptop, mister, but you're not. He smells that there's something new. Yes, mine does especially. He has a...
My neighbor called today while I was getting in the shower. She had my cat. She feeds the neighborhood cats, the strays in the area, and he must have got out when I let the dogs out. And he went over there to eat. Big old jerk.
Wait a minute, Carlos. He's left, like, to get away from the fires? Is that what he's doing? He just left Rosie and Jen there?
Of course he did.
Well, I'd say don't come back then if it were me.
You know she's not going to say that.
Oh, I know. But, I mean, you know.
How horrible.
Oh, just lurking, thanks. You don't have to keep doing that. She wants you to say, Smurf, who you think did it.
Just lurking. Do I know you? Anyways, just lurking. I believe. Excuse me.
My friend, you just to say you're not going to know who she is. So that's the one me.
She called me Maxine, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh,
so
she's been around a long time. She's been around Boyd a long time.
I believe that Darren had paid somebody to basically, quote unquote, rob the house because Darlie's jewelry, I'm sure, was insured, and Darlie caught him off guard. They didn't know that the kids and her were downstairs. Or there was a black van that was parked across the street for 2 days watching the house, and I believe that whoever was in that black van broke into the house to rob it and did not know that they were home because, like the truth said, Darren's car was in the shop and Darlie's was on the street. Why do you say that, weirdo? Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were talking about what I was saying. Either two things. These people, this person is walking around living what they did, or this person has already passed on and they will never be held accountable for what they did. Or I also think maybe, who knows, I play devil's advocate. Who knows, the person who did this could have family in the justice system down in Texas, so they will never be brought to justice.
In reading here, this is one of the newer news reports. Let me just get the exact date here. This is June the 14th, 2019. And, her family, her mother is still, a staunch believer that she's innocent. And it says Key, which is her mother. Her mother's name is Darlie as well, Darlie Key, and a group of about 24 supporters gathered at the Rockwall gravesite of Damon and Devin Friday on what would have been Devin's 30th birthday. I believe she will be exonerated within the year, said Key, and that's her mother, who holds out hope that the crime scene evidence, which is now in the process of being DNA tested, will clear her daughter's name. The graveside ceremony Thursday comes 23 years after another gathering at the same site that Darlie Key believes helped to wrongfully convict her daughter. Now, can you imagine the guilt that the sister must have felt? Hey, Ace, saying that, knowing that she brought the silly string and everything like that.
Yeah, but you know what? The sister was like 16. Nobody knew that was going to happen. Meaning, they were going to convict her on the damn silly string.
Right. I'm just saying though, now that since that part of it has gotten so much attention, that she's probably felt a lot of guilt about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember her saying in an interview before I even started talking to her that she has missed out on a lot of her sister's life, and she did not get to go to her wedding and be her maid of honor, and that eats her up every day.
And then the son, what is it? Drake was the baby.
Yeah.
I mean,
this
has overshadowed his whole life. I mean, his absolute whole life has been overshadowed by all of this. And I just couldn't imagine. And then he had cancer on, top of that. I agree, Everton. I mean, what parent would not want to believe that their child was innocent? You want to do everything you can to protect that child. Now, when I was reading last week, I could not find a whole bunch of information on it, but it looks like that Darren has remarried since the divorce, but I couldn't find a lot of information on it. Sorry to bother. Oh, that's okay. They're threatening to dox her phone number in another chat. I was trying to get her attention. Well, if she's like me, her number's already out there. My number's lost dozens of times, and I have yet to get one crank phone call. So I think people are too afraid to call me. I see Truth in here, but I can't hear her. Do you hear anything?
No, I do not.
And it looks like her microphone is on from what I'm seeing here. Yes, because the mother and father's both names started with D as well. It was Darlie and Darren were the parents, and then Devin. What was the other one?
Did you say Drake?
Devin was the 6-year-old, Damon was the 5-year-old, and Drake was the 6-year-old. I mean, newborn.
6 months. Yeah. Lindy, did you mute her?
No, because I mean it's still. Because I just muted it to see. Yeah, she's gone now. She's out of the stream again.
He's thinking StreamYard.
It's pretty easy to work with. I was kind of nervous I was going to have to learn something difficult.
Right.
She has left the building again. When I was a kid, I would have never believed that I liked the ID channel and Dateline and 2020 and stuff like that, but I do. I would have thought that was so boring when I was a kid.
Do you know what my favorite is? Cold Justice on the Oxygen channel.
I don't know if I've seen that.
Oh, I love it.
Lynn says, I'm new on here, so I'm not sure how to respond to someone directly. When you type their name like that, even if you type the first name, I think it highlights it, doesn't it?
Yes. In red.
Yeah. When I really got interested in cases was going back to 1994, 95 with the O.J. Simpson case. I lived in Georgia, and with the time difference, there was a 3-hour time difference. By the time I'd get home from work, I would still get to see a good portion of the trial, and I just got really into trials then. Everton says, what's your opinion of Darlie had been drinking beer instead of silly string? That analogy just popped into my head. They never took her to trial for the younger son after she got the death penalty on the first, which I don't know if that would happen in this day and age, because in this day and age, they tend to try to get, both of them. So if one conviction got thrown out, they would have the other one to fall back on. But in this case, why do you think that they tried them separately, or that it would have been tried separately?
Me?
Yeah.
I would have no idea. Your guess would be as good as mine.
I agree, Everton. I mean, and this is me. Let me add her back in again here. This is me being raised as a Southern Baptist, like where
I agree, Everett.
Our cemeteries are usually, with our churches. It would have been very unheard of. Just considered horrible for the silly string. You're right. It would have been about as bad if you were sitting there drinking beer. That's about the truth, especially in the South. Just Lurking says, I read she tested positive for amphetamines. Maybe if Truth can start talking.
I didn't hear that part.
There's just so much to read about this case. And in my description box here, for anybody that wants to go back, I have a lot of links here, but there's so many videos on YouTube and everywhere else. This is silly to some, maybe. Hey, Bookie. But because of what I've been through, I don't mind being by myself. And I don't mind, Thomas was gone a lot of the time. I mean, I would be weeks by myself. But I won't watch anything like true crime or anything like that if he's not at home. And I can remember when I first watched about this Darlie case years ago, I only would watch it on the nights that he would be at home when I would be, watching it. I don't know why. It's just something something in my head. That's true. A lot of diet pills did contain that. And that's the way Ace Smurf and I both agree with you on that. I personally, as a person, do not believe in the death penalty. Thomas has a totally different view on that than I do. And I guess you have to be in the military and to go to war. You have to have a different mindset for that. But I just am not, I could never condemn someone to death myself. I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I would never, ever want to be on a jury for anything like that.
I don't think I could be either.
So she must be having a hard time getting it to work.
I didn't think either way in the death penalty until I started reading up on Sister Helen Prejean.
Mm-hmm.
And reading the book Dead Man Walking.
Right.
And it's just a horrific thing.
And I also don't think that if I had a family member that was murdered, I don't think that I would want to be there when they were put to death. I mean, that would just not be something I would want to participate in. Maybe my mind will change down the road at some point in time, but not as of right now.
disturbed by boy, California has already got rid of the death penalty.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, darn truth. I hate that because we were on a good little roll here.
First death penalty.
I don't know. I don't know any things to tell you to possibly help or not. Oh my gosh, Sherry, the Susan Smith case. I was in my early 20s when that happened, and my first husband was never really big on wanting kids. We had always talked about the fact that, if we had kids, it would just be one because he didn't know that he really wanted kids. And I remember even, all that happened with those little boys. And he looked at me and he said, I would have much rather her just come up and handed those boys to us than to do what she did. I mean, it was just
Over a man.
that it was that horrible even to him that. Oh wow, I bet you do, Lynn, being in South Carolina, I bet you do. And see, Lynn, our daughter died last year, and we definitely feel, without going into everything, that there were some people that definitely had their hands in the situation. And Thomas fully believes that he could care less if they died or not. I guess because it goes against how I was raised, probably. Yeah, true. He was killed in prison. I don't see how any mother could kill their kid, period. But I also don't see how you could have sat there and watched that car roll into the lake.
The water.
Yeah, I mean, I can't grasp that at all. Well, thanks.
See,
Oh, there you are.
Oh,
I
yay.
had Susan. I had Susan Smith pegged right off the bat.
Those boys were precious, just precious.
They were the cutest little things.
So we'll ask you, Truth. Someone had asked Smurf's opinion. Who do you think is guilty?
Well, I hate to throw out names. Because there are some names that I do think are connected to this. But I believe this all boils down to Darren running his mouth to the wrong people. And one of
Do you
those
mean
boys woke
being
up.
cocky or what exactly?
I think he was trying to solicit somebody to rob his home, just like he did with his Jaguar. Not the one that was in the shop. He had a Jaguar years before. And he had it stolen for insurance purposes. I think he did the same thing. I think he ran his mouth to some punk ass kids. And I do think it was kids, and I do think it was more than one person.
Truth, I've never entertained that idea, but now that could be possible.
Hey, Jim, thanks for stopping by. Oh, yeah, there are on John Bonet. And thank you again, Just Lurking. You don't have to do that. A lot of people feel so sure that her brother did that, but that's just never been my gut feeling there.
No, I don't think her brother did it.
I've never thought like that.
I think that this affected his life so that, people don't know that he doesn't know how to act in certain situations. And that's cute. Jim says, hi, Lindy and the boy crime detectives. I like that. Julie says, anyone who hurts a child deserves to die, in my opinion.
Can you hear me, Everton?
I can hear. Oh, sorry.
Well, Everton says, I hear what the truth is saying with the ran his mouth theory. But the punk kids don't commit the perfect crime. Well, I would agree with you, except I believe this investigation Toby Shook admitted that never, ever had the Rowlett Police Department ever investigated a case like this. I think they were overwhelmed. I think once James Cron stepped on the scene and said within 20 minutes that this was an inside job, that they made the evidence fit what the so-called expert James Cron said. That's my opinion.
James is a piece of work.
But you say leave no evidence, Everton, but we don't know what evidence was left behind. There's unidentified fingerprints. There's unidentified body hairs. I mean, there is evidence.
Hey, Sugar Booger.
A lot of it just fell by the wayside. Do I think this was a out to get Darlie conspiracy? No. I think these were inexperienced crime scene. I mean, Rowlett was just an up and coming, bedroom community. They had never dealt with something like this ever. So when they brought in James Cron and he's the so-called expert, and he decides within 20 minutes that this is an inside job, I believe that's where the investigation went, and they never looked further. James Cron said that criminals don't use weapons from inside the home. That's not true. I mean, that was Tommy Limsell's. That was his MO. Believe it or not, one of the Darlie Routier supporters contacted Tommy Lynn before he was put to death. It just so happens he was in prison in, I believe, West Virginia. So, of course, but that was his perfect MO, was to go into a home, use a knife or a weapon from within the home, and just kill just to be killing. So they reached out to him, and of course, he was locked up at the time, and it couldn't be him.
I think that something should be done, not just in this case, but in many of the cases where there's untested DNA, that there should be money set aside for things like that, because that's very, very important when it wasn't considered, that big of a deal.
Well, do you all remember the David Cam case?
Yes.
The state trooper in Indiana who went through 3 trials before he was found not guilty. It cost his family over $150,000. His family, for touch DNA, which wasn't even around back when this crime happened. There was no such thing as touch DNA back in 1996.
Right.
So those are the kind of things.
I ever heard about DNA was the OJ case.
Yeah. And even then, the jury was, totally baffled with it.
I have wrote in to get them to test or not test. Look at that fingerprint. Many of us have wrote in for it.
You have a bloody fingerprint. A bloody fingerprint. That means that whoever left that print behind was in that home at the time of that killing.
Yes.
That does not match the Routiers. Now, you have another person saying it could be Darlie's pinky finger.
I don't think so.
Now, Everton, add to her disastrous testimony. Her testimony did hurt her. That's why I would never, ever take the stand. Ever. But you know what? She felt like she didn't have anything to hide. So I can't fault her for taking the stand. She sucked. She sucked as a witness on the stand. She was too emotional.
There.
I think maybe her defense probably told her not to take the stand. But you got to remember, Doug Mulder went in here. There was not one expert put on the stand and to counter the experts put on the stand for the state. What kind of defense does that? They had Labor and Epstein, who was willing to go up there and dispute the state's findings, but Doug Mulder didn't use them. Why not? I beg everybody to go watch The Last Defense.
I really enjoyed that.
Do you think her mother is right? Do you think she will ever be acquitted of this?
I don't know. I don't know. I want to believe that. I've wanted to believe that for so many years that I've been following this case, but I also know Texas law, and I think when the Innocence Project picked this up, it gave new hope to people.
How long
I have
did
to agree with Truth on this.
What are you talking about? They knew whose DNA was in and on the sock and who it belongs to. Okay. There was Devin's blood, Damon's blood, and then on the inside of the toe of the sock was Darlie's skin cells or saliva. They couldn't determine whether it was skin cells or saliva, but consistent with Darlie. What does that really tell you? Has any woman in here ever done her husband's socks and reached her hand in it to turn it inside out or right, I mean, what role do you think the sock played? If she used the sock as a plant as part of her staging, don't you think she would have put it somewhere that she knew they were going to find it?
Hey, Jan. Hey, Colleen. Who did find the sock?
It was found. The dogs didn't track it. It was found by police officers, investigators. And it was not turned over to the defense for over a month. You guys can sit and believe she did it, and I'm okay with that. But I don't know how you can say that she doesn't deserve a new trial. It was found by a police officer. Yes.
My earbuds.
Yes, much better.
What about now, Bookie, without my earbuds?
Oh, they're saying it's worse. I got to jump off here anyways. I got to run.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here, Truth. I appreciate it. This is definitely a case that I will probably keep bringing up from time to time because there seems to be a lot of interest in it too. And I certainly appreciate your input.
That entire sock wasn't tested. So to say there was no one else's DNA on it, you can, I use that same argument about the knife, that Devin's DNA wasn't found on the knife. And non-supporters say, well, it was only tested in 4 spots. Well, doesn't that apply to the sock as well? Like I said, you can believe she's guilty, but you have to believe that she deserves another trial. You have to.
I don't see.
33,000 errors. I don't know how you could say the woman, a judge with Alzheimer's, a cop that lied on the stand. I don't know how the main the head and lead investigator Patterson pleads the fifth. How can you not give the woman at least a new trial?
That is very puzzling. And usually if it was today, there's no way they would have had a trial ready in 8 months to go to court like that. Just no
No.
possible way.
And Doug Mulder only had 10 weeks, and he was told before he ever took the case. And some people don't believe that Mulder should have been allowed to take the case because he had represented Darren and Darlie Key in a gag order. And people feel like it was a conflict of interest. You're entitled to a fair trial, not a perfect trial. I totally agree with you. But by the same token, I don't see how it was a fair trial when there were no defense experts put on. Who does that? Who is in a fight for their life and you don't put an expert on? The only thing the jury was given was the state side. Everything else was just Mulder standing up there saying she didn't do it. I mean, I don't know how that's fair. I don't. I don't believe the woman did it. And I hope I'm right,
Asking anything her mother's just said. I'm just curious, has she ever mentioned how she has held up all these years and held on to hope?
Well, that woman's been put through hell by a lot of non-supporters.
Right.
I mean, and I don't care how you look at this. Even if you believe Darlie is guilty, her family, they're victims.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and yes, she's read through all of them front and back and upside down. I believe Ace. No mother is going to believe that their child is guilty like that. So, I mean, the mother basically lost her child and her, two grandchildren all at the same time.
I understand, Everton, that Darlie looked each jury in the eye and said she didn't kill her boys, and not one jury believed her. Is there not another case out there of wrongful conviction that same thing didn't happen? No, Smurf Blue, you need to come back because I'm getting ready to go. Come back, Smurf Blue, come back. Like I said,
I would have a hard time.
I'm not here to change anybody's mind about guilt or innocence because, I mean, she's been found guilty. But I can't see how you can look at those trial transcripts, know that the crime scene investigator walked through there and within 20 minutes made up his mind it was an inside job. They're talking about the dust wasn't disturbed on the windowsill. Well, they took that exact window, the replica, or I think it might have been the exact window, into the courtroom and had a gentleman crawl through it, and he didn't touch it. He didn't touch that windowsill. That windowsill was only 11 inches off the ground.
And I want to say too, Everton, I know that you totally disagree, but thank you so much for being so respectful.
Oh, yeah.
Because, we don't have a dog in this fight. We just enjoy talking about these things. And, we're going to have people that, on any of these cases, we're going to have people that staunchly believe one way or the other, and then others that are just kind of in the middle with it. So thank you for being so respectful. You obviously have a lot of knowledge of the case too, Everton, as well.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, I think that we probably all agree that she at least deserves a new trial. I mean, there were too many errors made And I'm actually surprised that she hasn't gotten that. But
Well, at this point in the game, it's not, I mean, it's going to take a lot, like actual innocence for her to, I mean, they don't just say, well, there was a technicality, so we're going to give her a new trial. Once she reaches, the appeals, and keep in mind, her appeals got kicked back to the state. And the judge said this is one of the most convoluted cases they had ever seen.
Now, Truth,
I
are
don't
you?
I don't think they would. I believe if something happens and she's released, I don't think they're going to retry her. Everybody says no, they'll retry her on Devon's. Well, they have even less evidence that she killed Devon than they did back in 1996 that she killed Damon. I mean, at least they had Damon's blood on the knife.
hey,
They don't even have that.
I think about all aspects of things like this, and let's just say, if she ever was acquitted, can you imagine just how much the world has changed since she's been in prison? All the, coming out and getting used to everything.
Technology and such.
Oh, imagine cell phones,
Oh,
Facebook,
yeah.
YouTube. I mean,
Facebook.
like I said, I'm a staunch believer that she didn't do it. But even if I was one of these people that thought she did it, I would still think she deserves a new trial because there are so many problems with that trial that I don't know how somebody can look at it and say, I mean, I know if my loved one was on trial, and especially a death penalty case, and the judge had Alzheimer's, I would have a problem with that.
Oh my gosh, I'd be pitching a fit everywhere with
Now,
something.
People will say, well, how did his Alzheimer's affect the trial? I don't know. I wasn't there. But would that be acceptable in anybody's world?
He should have been
not.
stepped down the minute that diagnosis was given.
He should have never, the man had already put in for his retirement. You're asking why this trial was rushed? It's because Judge Mark Toll had already put in for his retirement, but he wanted this one last case. He wanted this little notch on his belt. And God rest his soul, he's passed on. He died of dementia, Alzheimer's.
I had not heard that. I'm definitely going to go back and continue reading on this case because there's just so much info on it. I did read through quite a bit of the transcripts of the court trial. But
this doesn't have anything to do with Darlie, but do you want to hear something strange? Google Judge Mark Toll's daughter. Janine was her name, I believe. Google that case. You talk about strange. Janine, just if you Google Judge Mark Toll's daughter, it'll come up Janine or something.
Wobby.
Look into that. You talk about weird. This woman reported being attacked in her home. Her husband come running through the garage door in a sweatshirt, no pants or nothing, beaten the head with the hammer. She reports to the police 2 or 3 times. She's been kidnapped, thrown out of her car. And do you know she ended up taking her life and her 2 kids' life?
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. I did not know anything about this.
Not that it has anything to do with Darlie's case. Nothing.
It is very odd, though, that things like that happen surrounding all that. Definitely. I know what you mean. I mean, like when that Chris Watts happened, I read every single thing that I could. Now, I have not got into reading, the new letters and things like that, but I remember it was like Thanksgiving last year, and I was reading every one of those transcripts from that case.
Ooh, Lindy, there's There's some juicy drama going on over in the crime community about that.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, one of the big crime girls got her hands on that Letters of Chris Watts and put it in like her Discord or something.
Oh.
It got leaked out. Everybody on YouTube got it before the book hit the presses. Amazon's freaking out. I mean, it's a mess over there right now.
Oh, wow. Now, Truth, are you a true crime channel or?
It was the jury that convicted her, not the judge. I agree. Go back. Like I said, if you get the opportunity, watch The Last Defense and listen to what Carrie Harris, which was one of the jurors, said. Listen to why she says she convicted Darlie. Listen to what that woman says. She says because she buys fancy stuff and I don't buy stuff like that. She bleaches her hair. Well, I never look like that. Silly string at the gravesite. Well, who would do that? She doesn't give one reason, not 1 ounce of evidence why she voted to convict. Not one.
My mother would have been convicted every time for having bleached hair then.
Exactly. That was Dallas.
Right?
That was Dallas, guys. Look at the show Dallas. I mean, bleached hair, big hair, fancy clothes, jewelry. I mean, that was what, fake boobs. That was the thing.
And my mother's best friend was a hairstylist, so she was definitely one of the ones that always had her hair done to the nines and
Sure.
dressed nice and everything. There's a Sherry.
There's a link under Lindy's video, I think, isn't there, of The Last Defense?
Yeah, I've got quite a few links, and you can go and look at all the transcripts and everything there as well.
Like I said, guys, we could talk about this case for days.
Oh, absolutely. And I definitely want to bring it back up again. And of course, we will always, if something were to happen with these test results and everything, we would definitely talk about it again then as well. As for who is up next, we are going to be doing next week Rodney Reed.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, good case.
He is someone that Smurf knows more information on, but he is set to be put to death, middle of November, Smurf?
November 20th.
God forbid. God forbid they put that man to death.
True. I actually know Rodney Reed. He's another one of my...
I think the Last Defense was actually, it was a 2-part special. And
yes.
It was, they were going to do 2 episodes on Rodney Reed. Was it Rodney Reed, Smurf?
Yes.
And they were going to do 2 parts on Darlie, but there was so about Darlie that they had to do a 3-part special.
Dr. Phil, 2 weeks
ago,
3 weeks
watch
ago.
The Last Defense. And when you see
2 or
Greg
3
Davis,
weeks
the
ago,
prosecutor, talk about mulch underneath the window where the screen was cut, there is no mulch underneath that screen, you all. The pictures
he was
will
saying it wasn't
show
disturbed.
There is a sidewalk underneath there. There is no mulch. He says, well, the mulch wasn't disturbed underneath the window because there is no mulch. But I do appreciate you having me, Lindy. I'll check back with you to see.
You being here. I appreciate.
Come on back up, Smurfy.
I'm right here.
Like I said,
Everton, I have marked that one down. I will definitely take a look at that. We've got a running list of different cases. Oh, I'll add that one to the list, Disbard. And
which one?
Pardon me?
Which cases Everton talking about?
Leslie Demunick, D-E-N-I-U-K, very similar, he says, to the Darlie case. She had postpartum depression and killed her 4-year-old twins. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Truth, are you a true crime channel?
Thank you for having me. Like I said, guys, keep an open mind. Everton, thank you for being civil with me because I know sometimes it can get heated between supporters and non-supporters. But if you get a chance, watch The Last Defense, look over the transcripts. I think if you do, some of you will agree that she deserves a new trial. And
And
on
this
that
is going to
note,
be pretty much an open panel every week. You know, if any of you want to come up and discuss, you know, the cases that we're on, Truth, you're welcome back anytime. Of course,
sure.
Smurf and I will be here each week.
Okay.
And if you have any cases that you want to send to us, you can DM me on Twitter or you can email me at lindyzoloft@gmail.com, and we will definitely add those to the list as well. One of the reasons I wanted to go ahead and do this read is because, you know, unfortunately his death has already been scheduled for next month. So I thought that it would be a good topic, and Smurf is also very familiar with that case as well.
I
So,
actually know him.
yeah.
He's another one of my
Thank you, Tree. So
friends.
glad you joined us.
Thank you, Truth.
I'm probably going to shut down here as well. I've had my iPad
Yes.
unplugged and my battery's going to be going down. But thank you all, and thank you for hanging in there. It was kind of a trial and error for me tonight. This was the first time that I had used StreamYard. So it was kind of a little bit of a learning curve, but I think it went pretty well for it. I think we just had some trouble with maybe some things on the back end and whatever. But Smurf, as always, I appreciate you always being here with me. I appreciate all of you that are in the side chat. And we will see you next Monday, and we will be discussing the Rodney Reed case. Oh, thank you so much, Disbard. Thank you all for being here, and y'all have a great week.